here I am. In 20 days I'll be 95. And I think the secret is when you're sleepy, go to sleep. So I sleep 10, 12 hours a night almost. But I'm up every 2 or 3 hours to go to the bathroom. But anyway, in my back in about 1933, when I was 12 years old, we saw little cars zip by. They were stripped down Model Ts. Someone had taken the fenders and everything off and made kind of a little racing car out of it, or sort of a sports car, although we didn't know there was such a thing as a sports car. So by that golly, that looks like fun, because we're riding bicycles, and that takes power to run that. So, by golly, we find out where the guy lives, and he tells us there's not just 2 of these in your section of town. They're in all over California and different cities. And if you want to see a lot of them, come up to the dry lakes. What's the dry lakes? Well, out near Lancaster there's a big dry lake that floods in the wintertime and dries in the summer. And they have several times a year, they have straightaway timing trials up there with modified cars, and they come from all over California. Sure enough, we got a ride in the rumble seat, and there were hundreds of cars in line trying to make time trials. Well, it was very cheap in those days. I think we only had a couple of dollars to make the trip up, and it was if we got in there at nighttime, it'd be awful cold, but got real hot as soon as the sun come up. Well, we met, and we had to learn from the older fellas. See, the guys had been doing this, maybe since 1905 or so, and we looked up to the older guys who had already gone fast up there and knew how to hop up a car, and we heard about Ed Winfield, the first cam grinder, who was born in 1901 and passed away in about 1980. And I bought my first cam from him. And I was fascinated by the machine he had built. He'd showed it to me. And after the war, when I got out of the Army, I thought I'd like to try that, cam grinding. And evidently, it was wide open, the business, to someone that would try something new. It was kind of a experimenting thing. So, lucky I got into this new drag hot rod magazine that come out, and the NASCAR guys had flathead Fords. They were racing back in the Carolinas. And they called up one day when I saw my little ad in the Hot Rod magazine, and they ordered 2 cams by airmail, and I was deathly afraid they were going to ask me how much experience have you had, because I only had a few months' experience. Well, this noisy little cam I'd made, I didn't know what was good about it, but it was especially good for circle track racing, because it had a good lot of low end power and good top end power, and they could, if a little spot opened up, they could work yourself up to the front of the circle track and maybe get up in the lead. So they ordered over after that, and first thing you know, I was making a living at it. Oh, then they bought more cams, bought flatheads. They were racing flatheads. The Ford flathead was very plentiful, and it was the fastest stock car on the road at the time. Although a Hudson Hornet was also a fast car, but they're very scarce.
Yeah, they were.
But there were plenty of flatheads. And in fact, they used to make fun of the Ford V8s up at Muroc Dry Lake, because it didn't go as fast as the hopped-up old Model B and the A 4-cylinders. But later on, they learned how to hop them up and how to make the right speed equipment and so forth. So I'm a mighty lucky guy to be able to make a living out of a hobby. and I'm still interested and still learning, still trying to figure out some problems, and you learn from your customers too. You know, they sometimes they'll have a car that's acting very strange, and I tell them, whatever you do, don't sell that car. We want to find out what that problem is. We want to learn something off that funny acting car. So anyway, now now the hobby got real big, and we never expected that, of course. My ambition was to make $100 labor a day, grind a cam for $20 each. If you could do 5 a day, you'd have $100 profit. Well, it took about a year, and by golly, I did make $100 a day, 5 days a week, and they came from all over. I didn't. It caught on back east. We used to think it was only a thing for the good weather out in the west, open roadsters, you know. But it caught on back east, and oh man, that's where the money and the talent was. And of course they caught on, and I remember when NASCAR used to look to California for advice on speed equipment. Now they know more about it than we do because they've got big money, sponsorship money behind them. They got with big expensive shops and everything.
What was the big breakthrough in cam making? Was there a big breakthrough or something that really changed?
Well, there was a breakthrough. At first, I made the cams as the simplest way of all. It was a base circle, an opening radius, a closing radius, and a radius over the nose. And there's a length, and for higher and higher speeds, where we go to longer and longer duration. And then a flathead cam had a certain profile. And one day I was looking at a chicken egg, and I says, you know, that sort of looks like a hot racing cam profile if you get the side view. And we checked it out, and by golly, with a little alteration, we made a cam, and it said it's way too high in lift, way too long in duration, and it won't run. But I hard-faced the cam and put it on a Chevy on the dyno and give it the bones. My dyno man, I says, put that in. I want to make sure this don't work. I don't expect it to work. And he jumped 75 horsepower, just like that. We're 5 years ahead of the market. No one would even believe it. Even the top pros in those days wouldn't believe it.
So what did you call that cam? Did you give it a name?
We call it the 550 Super Ligera.
Uh-huh.
And how did I get that Super Ligera? From my customers. One day, Dave Zuchel comes in, a professional engine builder. Iski, I want you to make me a Super Ligera cam. I said, boy, that sounds good. What does that mean? And then we found in Italian that meant light and fast or something. And we start using it, and everybody liked that. And so we did get a good profile off a chicken egg. Something from nature actually worked for high speed on a Chevrolet engine, a small block Chevy. Well, I guess by being curious enough to look at that egg and see what that would do, by God, it was just what the engine wanted. It wanted RPM. That was dying for you to, because people were stuck at 5,000, thinking like with flatheads they don't have much power after 5 or 5,500. So they must have looked at the Chevy in the same way, but this thing breathes. It had good volumetric efficiency. It breathed a lot of air, so it could use a lot of fuel. And the RPM 8,000 or 8,500 was great, but now they go 10,000, you know, in NASCAR. I work about 3 hours a day,
Good.
get lots of sleep, and my sons are, I got 3 sons luckily, and they are doing things their way. and I'm having a hard time getting my foot in a way. But anyway, like I want to make some stronger advertising and stuff like that, and maybe I'll get it in. Maybe I'll talk him into letting me run some ads. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. We always learn a lot when we come here. We see a lot of new ideas. A lot of the guys have new talent and ideas, and you see a lot of old cars that we forgot. We haven't seen them for a long time.
That's right. That's right. Brings back some memories, doesn't it?
I mean, cars besides Fords, like Chryslers, and what did we find interesting today? All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you for